Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. On today's episode of Playing Small is Cancelled, we have a true legend and powerhouse in the world of branding and building assets. He's hailed as the father of modern branding, and his contributions have shaped the entire field of marketing as we know it today. Big facts. He's the vice chair at Profit, a globally recognized branding authority, and the creator of game changing concepts. And he's also an author of a plethora of books, selling over millions of copies in 18 languages, and was inducted into the American Marketing Association Hall of Fame. No big deal. His guidance has influenced many of the world's top brands, and his teachings have transformed marketing leadership on a global scale. Please welcome the innovative, game changing, and iconic, the handsome and abundant David Aaker. How you doing, David?
I'm not sure I recognize the person you're describing, but I'm doing fine.
Well, that's you, my friend. As I like to always say, it's your story. You wrote it. I just said it with a weird New York accent.
Uh, it's good. I'm a Damon Runyon fan, so anything New York is colorful to me.
Let's do it. For our audience and our community, in case you were not familiar with David, my best suggestion is to do a deep dive, play catch up, read his books, all the things. What I think is most valuable today is we just dive right in and go deep and have a great conversation. But before we start, I have a little icebreaker for you. Are you ready for me, David?
I'm ready.
Okay. How important is it for you to be really connected to your mission?
Um, well, I think that a mission or a purpose is really useful because it can provide sort of an umbrella justification for what you're doing and in a way that's inspiring and in a way that's informative and guiding. One of the things in my last book, I talk about purpose driven branding and I talk about the fact that sometimes you need more than one purpose or mission. Actually, mission turns out to be a little bit more useful than purpose for most companies, but they perform the same function. But there are times where you need two purposes. You need a business purpose and you need a social purpose. Now, a lot of people, a lot of firms, organizations can have a purpose that's broad enough to have a social component in it comfortably without distorting. But a lot of times it's better if you give yourself the flexibility of having a social purpose and a business purpose.
That's awesome. I love that. And it's funny because some people might say the opposite. It's better to have one because then you might dilute them. But you have different purposes in different arenas for different reasons that keeps you excited. Is that right?
Well, it's not that you need to have two. You need to know that's an option. So if you're struggling with finding one that works in both arenas, then that's fine. But if you get to the point where you're forcing it and distorting things, then it's better to have two.
Beautifully said. What is, if you don't mind sharing, what is a good social purpose that you have that you're really enthusiastic about?
Well, I'm a big fan of Thrivent's effort. They have a model, give generously. They're a financial services firm, one of the top 400 they're in the Fortune 400 or 500, um, and they not only help their clients develop portfolios that respond to their own personal needs, but they also encourage people to give generously. It was a company that was started as sort of to help the members of a Lutheran church, and so that's their heritage going back about a century. But they still live by that, and one of the things they've done is to adopted what I call a signature social program. And this is can be one that you develop yourself, like the Dove Real Beauty program, for example. But in the case of Thrivent, they adopted Habitat for Humanity about 20 years ago. And so that's been a really important part of their um, of their mission. And so it's a way um, to make their employees have pride in their organization, to be inspired by the organization, and their customers as well. And if you're financial services, um, it's first of all kind of accounting boring kind of thing, and second of all, it's a little threatening. And so the idea that there's a social dimension to Thrivent is just really powerful. And they divide their customer base of 2 million into communities based on defined by zip code, and each of these communities are organized and active and do social good, and sort of half of their efforts are devoted to Habitat for Humanity. So they create teams that go to Africa and wherever. They volunteered 6.2 million hours, and they have raised $275 million for Habitat, and so it's part of them. And so um, if you have any brand, but a financial services brand, it's really hard to differentiate.
Mm.
I mean, you're all providing financial service to help your customers respond to their objectives, but um, having a social purpose and uh, having a tagline like "Give generously," having action teams that do social good, and in using the umbrella Habitat of Humanity to sort of be the signature program. And that means the program that you lead with, the program they think of when they think of you, if they're an employee or customer. And and actually, I could say that my theory is that you need a social program for your business because it gives you visibility, it gives you an image lift, and it gives you involvement. If you look at Thrivent, they've got enormous visibility among their customer base of 2 million and all their friends and associates. And it gives them an image lift because they know there's just not in it to get a commission on doing financial services work. And it gets involvement. All these customers and employees are now involved. I mean, they may not all be personally involved, but they're all sitting next to somebody who is, if they're not, and they hear stories about this involvement and the output of it. And so it does so much for the Thrivent brand. And then the Thrivent is a big help to Habitat. $275 million. That's meaningful, and 6.2 volunteer hours. That's also meaningful, and also the endorsement of Thrivent is meaningful. The fact that Thrivent is saying to 2 million plus people, with their families at 5 million or something, Habitat's okay. You can support Habitat. I mean, we wouldn't be in there to this depth if it wasn't a good nonprofit that's doing good work competently and efficiently. So, so you get this win-win flywheel that grows and grows, and it's just so powerful for both parties. And so what I argue is that if you look around, uh, businesses have gotten the message, and they're all trying to do social good basically. But usually what they do is grants, a volunteer program, an energy goal, and it looks and is the same as every other company. It is no visibility to anybody really. It's hard to communicate. So what I think that companies need to develop are signature programs like Habitat, like Real Beauty for Dove, and use those to help their business, but also to provide ongoing sort support that thrives over the years and not just dwindles at the first sign of stress.
I loved it. This is a master class. First of all, thank you. Before I dive into what you just said, I just have to ask you because your energy is off the charts. Do you drink coffee or work out?
I work out. I don't drink coffee, but I
Wow.
work out all the time.
Your enthusiasm is unbelievable. I imagine one of the reasons why is because you're connected to your mission. But the signature program is awesome. I love how you describe that. And one of the things that you just touched there was stories. And I know that you love to talk about how stories can impact people. And I've even heard you say that a story can make facts many times more memorable for the audience and listeners. How important is that for you to tell a good story when you're communicating?
Yeah, it's I have a friend, Scott Galloway, that's pretty visible, a podcaster, and he's been a successful entrepreneur. And people are always asking them, what, how do you, if I'm a young professional or if I'm a college student, what is a really key to success, or what's the most important thing I should learn? And he talks about being a storyteller. He said that is the most important attribute to get ahead in business, uh, and to develop a business if you're an entrepreneur. If you can learn to use stories, then you're going to be have a much better success of doing what you want to do. But so I wrote this book on stories called "Creating Signature Stories." I'm big on the word signature, but this is a story that represents, who you are as a business or an offering, and and how you connect to the customer. And I'm not talking about, when you ask people what is your story, they'll give you 5 bullet points. That's not the kind of story I'm talking about. I'm talking about a once upon a time story about an event or something that has hopefully some tension, some emotion, some interesting characters you can connect to, relate to, and that's what I mean by story. And the problem, the reason it's even more important than it's ever been, and it's always been important, but uh, it's well, first of all, let me say that psychologists have studied storytelling as a way to communicate and persuade for a long time, and we know with scientific confidence that if a story is involved, your communication is 3 or 4 times more effective, much more easy. It's much more likely to be seen and processed, much more likely to be believed, and it's much more likely to be remembered, orders of magnitude more, not just 20% more. But what we're facing today is we're facing audience overload. We're facing media clutter. We're facing audience skepticism. And if you put those together, it's really hard. I mean, we no longer can make great TV commercials and expect that to work. It's not where we are, and so you need to have stories. Yeah, that doesn't mean you can't tell facts and describe your product, but you can do that before the story, and the story then will illustrate the facts and make it relevant. You can put them after the story, so you have the story and then say, and we're not talking about one person here, we're talking about da 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 and so on, where you can embed the facts in the story, make them part of the story. So it doesn't mean you can't have a communication target that involves facts and descriptions, but it needs to have a story along to motivate.
So good, so valuable. And I love that you use the word tension there to really grip the listener, to really have them engaged and invested and to go deeper. And that's so relatable
Now,
to
let
me.
me give you an example, Craig.
Please.
In 1986, I mean, isn't that perk your interest when I start out and say 1986? You're already wondering what's happening in 1986.
Absolutely.
Well, this was in China. There was an appliance company that was failing. It was making crummy products, and it was going downhill. So the government said to this middle manager, "Look, take over your company and try to save it." So about 6 weeks later, a customer came in with an appliance that was faulty. And he said, "No problem. We'll go to the warehouse and we'll get you a new one." He went to the warehouse and he found that 40% of those in the warehouse floor were defective. So he brought, it was about 72 of them. So he brought those out to the factory floor and he got a sledgehammer and he and the employees smashed all of them. And he said, from now on, we're making only quality stuff. There's going to be no more faulty appliances anywhere. And that became one of the credos of a company that ultimately today is named higher, and it's the largest manufacturing company in the world. And one of their core values is a commitment to quality. And to this day, they don't talk about arguing that we have high quality because we care about it, because we got inspectors, because we got good. And you know how well that would be received. Nobody would pay attention to it. All they have to do is mention the sledgehammer. Everybody knows that story. At least all the employees and the dealers know that story. And they've got the sledgehammers in a museum in their warehouse. It's a symbol of one of the things that higher stands for. And so that's an example. Again, compare that story to trying to argue that we make good stuff.
Unbelievable. So good. And pivoting for a second, but also on that note, I know that you also love to talk to about a game-changing subcategory. And I imagine there's some people listening right now that are thinking, well, what exactly is a subcategory? What is a game-changing subcategory in your eyes?
Well, I discovered something that is not new, and a lot of smarter people than I have discovered the same thing. But I was studying. I did a lot of work in Japan, and I studied the beer industry in Japan. And I look at 30 years of data. Only 4 times did the market share trajectory change. And this is all kinds of promotions, new products, but only 4 times. And at each time, I noticed that a dramatic product change occurred. And basically a new subcategory occurred. And I define that to be, an offering that has a meaningful, better buying experience or use experience, or a meaningful new customer relationship. So it's something it's completely different and new. It's a disruptive innovation. And I looked at dozens of other categories: computers and cars and yogurt, and it's always the same. Every time you see a spurt of growth, it's almost always accompanied by disruptive innovation. And so I believe it's the only way to grow. And it's sort of supported by the fact that in marketing, probably the most robust scientific finding we have in all of marketing research, if you go back a century, is the following. If you want to predict new product success, the most important variable, and I literally dozens, hundreds of studies, the most important variable is how different it is.
Hmm.
And again and again, that shows up, because that means that not only does it mean you have a reason to buy this new product, but it means you have a reason to learn about it. And if you don't have something different, it's so hard to get visibility. So we know that's true. So and all these people that have studied disruptive innovation have written really great books. The Blue Ocean book and others, and Clayton Christensen's books. But what what I add to the equation is that branding is really important to disruptive innovation, and most of these books don't even mention branding.
I think that
So
I,
a branding has really three roles, but it starts with becoming the exemplar brand, the brand that defines a subcategory, the Prius, the Tesla, uh, or the enterprise rent a car or something, and this. But then they have to position the subcategory, they have to scale the subcategory, and they have to create barriers for the subcategory. And that's a branding job. All those are brand or can't be done without understanding branding.
amen. And I think in 2025, which we're almost in, everybody should be considering building a brand or a personal brand or whatever. It's like the modern day reputation. And I know that you say, correct me if I'm wrong, when there is something truly special about your business, then you must brand it. Is that right?
Yeah, one of the things I find in talking to entrepreneurs, and especially, and I do some work with nonprofits, and I'll ask them, "What's special about your business?" And they're very good at uh, enunciating it. They can describe it with passion and clarity. And I said, "Why don't you brand it?" Ah, I could. I hadn't even thought about that. My own company that I work with, Profit, and we do some things really well. We can, um, we run big trade shows for companies. We can transform companies, and we've got some terrific skills in corporate culture. And and I, why don't we brand it? And we're a branding company. And I go to these nonprofits, and they have a secret sauce, but it's not branded. The reality is, it's almost impossible to communicate without a brand. It's
Mhm.
really hard.
Yeah. Your brand has an energy behind it. And
So
also,
one of my examples of branding is
go ahead.
Uniqlo, the Japanese retailer that have they innovate on fabrics, unlike other retailers that just sort of sell clothes, and they've developed a fabric called Heat Tech, and that's a fabric that will keep you warm in the winter because of the way it handles moisture. And they have another one called Airism that'll keep you cool in the summer, the way it handles moisture. And people come to Uniqlo to get those garments. And now their competitors have have developed similar garments, but they don't have Airism and they don't have Heat Tech. And and they're fighting an uphill battle.
Also, real quickly, you mentioned Profit. I heard that Profit was recently included on Forbes' world's best management consulting firms list, and I just wanted to take a second and congratulate you.
Oh, well, thanks. It's not much to do with it, but yeah, thanks. There's an amazing team of people at Profit.
Yeah. And that's one of the most important things too when building a business or brand is having the right team around you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the questions entrepreneurs ask me a lot is the social programs, and I don't have money or time for a social program, and when do I start that? And so, I tell the story of Facebook that was started in 1999, and there's three people in a hotel room, and the CEO, had just come. Had been at Oracle. He's this one of the top two or three people at Oracle, and he had taken a sabbatical and gone to India and got some guru told you, you can be in business and do good at the same time. And he came back committed when he was going to start a business. And of course, he started the cloud software business. But when you start a business, you can do both, and that was a tenet of Salesforce from the very beginning. Out of the box, they had 1-1-1 program where you get 1% of your equity, 1% of your employees' time, and 1% of your sales to some good cause. And they've now, I think about 13 years later, they open it up to everybody. Now 10,000 businesses are doing that. And just think of the good that does Salesforce when you got 10,000 businesses that are looking up to Salesforce as a partner in this program, and as a mentor, and as a role model. But the point is that here is one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time, and he did it on day one. He developed a program, and he developed a purpose and a mission for his organization that embedded social programs right now. And to this day, he's got a sort of a purpose for his program, a business purpose to connect customers or connect customers and with a business in some he's got a way to express it, but it's all about connection. But he's got a social purpose. Using software for social good is powerful, or something like that. And but at any rate, the point, one point is it's part of his the purpose of the organization developed on day one. So if you have that kind of a motivation, it's never too early to start.
Beautifully said. And as we gear up for the last quarter of the year, maybe even after that, what do you see as the next frontier in branding? How can businesses start preparing for it? And what do you see as maybe a new trend that might be on the horizon?
Everybody is talking about AI and how AI is going to affect branding in two ways. One, it provides a lot of opportunity for new disruptive innovations, because if you applied AI to some sort of a market or some market, um, you'll probably likely to be creating a disruptive innovation. So that's one thing. The second thing is that it can help us do our marketing work. Like I use AI to help edit and improve my manuscripts now, for example, and we use AI at Profit to do really fast some preliminary research that saves us a lot of time and it allows us to have more depth when we're addressing client problems. So that's one thing. But I really think that my last three books, I th- I'm sorry, but I nailed it. I mean, I think these are the problems to face. And one is, if we want to employ business to do social good, which is now a consensus that it's necessary, it's really necessary for the society, but it's necessary for firms as well. Uh, we have to learn how to use signature social programs to help the business, and that's how both will thrive over a long period of time. And second of all, we're in an era of disruptive innovation. There's more of them. They move faster. They have more impact than ever before. And so we have to understand how to use branding to make disruptive innovations work. And we have to learn to use stories. This is more tactical, but still we have to learn to use stories to to help us get attention, to help us communicate, to help us get remembered when we communicate. And that's not easy. Um, if you're an entrepreneur in a B2B space, it everybody knows you need sort of case studies when you walk in the door. But uh, what they don't know is these case studies really can't be shallow. They can't be descriptive. They've got to be a story. You've got to have characters in there, and you have to have characters that you can relate to, and you have to have tension and emotion, or at least it helps you a lot if you do, or humor. Um, there's some examples of people that have used humor to break through and to change minds that were unchangeable.
Mm, I like how you just said break through and change minds that were unchangeable because everything is penetratable. I don't know if that's a word, but being able to penetrate it if you have the right tools, such as powerful story, be able to inflict emotion, humor, something could break through. Is that right?
Now it's okay again. For a few seconds, we were dark.
Oh, don't worry, you can never lose me, ever. I was saying I love how
I
you
guess
worded
I guess that's a good thing.
definitely. I love how you worded that, being able to change a mind that's unchangeable, and also like something as powerful. You mentioned earlier attention, but now humor. There are tools, there's a skill that can be developed so that you can communicate even more effectively.
So the what humor gives you, and what a good story gives you also, is you distract from counter arguing.
Mm.
I mean, with Chevron at one time had a terrible problem. They were blamed for the energy storage precipitated by a boycott of the Middle East of the United States, and people thought they were making 35% profit, and they just thought they were awful, and nothing they could do would correct that. They said we make actually 4% profit, not 35. Nobody cared. Nobody listened. Nobody believed. But then they developed some cartoon ads involving dinosaurs. They gulp gulp, and it was very cute and very funny and very lively. And they were explaining how we run out of oil, no more dinosaurs, and we have to conserve, and we're doing that, and everything. Their image changed. That did it. And but I mean, who's going to argue with a cartoon dinosaur?
Not me.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not. And so that's really a Actually, I have a daughter that wrote a book called Humor Seriously, and it indicates that if you put humor into business, you become a better manager, a better executive, and you have a better organization.
I love that. Humor seriously. That's a catchy title. Runs must run in the family.
Well, I'm not very good at titles, so that part of it was not obtained. They never asked me for titles, that's for sure.
Fair enough. I wanted to ask you, Dave, before we land the plane today. You have so many different things going on. What are you personally most excited about right now?
Well, it's always my last book, and so now I'm kind of excited about. I'm revising Aaker on branding, which I wrote 11 years ago to summarize my work. Well, now I've had 3 books since, and life and the environment has changed, so I'm updating that book, and I think it's going to be really um, a good result, and that should be out early next spring.
Amazing. Okay. All right, great. Before we wrap up, I want to have a little bit of fun, a little rapid fire, maybe 1 or 2 word answers. I'm really going to test you. Are you ready for me?
Yeah,
Okay. Your favorite movie?
The In-Laws
It's a good one. I just got married, so that one
with Ellen Arkin and Peter
classic,
Falk.
classic. Okay. Your favorite guilty pleasure?
Um, Gosh, I don't know. Um, well, I like the golf. I don't think that's a guilty pleasure, but it's fun when I get out.
Fair enough. Okay. Your favorite book, not including one of yours?
Um, oh, there's a lot of. I really like the American Caesar, Manchester's book about MacArthur, and another one I like is Last Call, which is a story of prohibition, and it explains how political influence drives democracies to stupid decisions.
Good one. Okay. Your favorite musician?
The Carpenters, Karen Carpenter.
Okay. Couple more. You're doing great at this, by the way. Your favorite
Thank
more
God.
your favorite morning ritual essential?
I like to exercise. When I get that in, everything goes better.
Okay. What's your favorite workout?
Well, I have a electrical machine, and I swim, and bike.
Unbelievable. How young are you, if you don't mind me asking?
86.
And just getting warmed up. I love it. You, my friend, have purpose.
Yeah, my purpose is developed about 30 years ago, and that's to try to help people use branding to build assets more effectively.
You're amazing. Thank you. And for our community and our audience, and we're going to repurpose this, what's the best way for them to support, to get involved, maybe follow along? Where can they follow you along?
Well, I have a blog. I've done about 380 blogs, and you can access it through profit.com or davidacker.com.
Okay. I love it. David, thank you so much for stopping by today and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets.
Thank you for having me, Craig. It was fun.
Hang out for 1 second.